Hey folks, it's Estelle here from the Wish Club, and just wanted to go through what's coming up for the new moon in Aries tomorrow. It's going to be tomorrow. Here we're going to do our call at 8 o'clock in the morning, but the new moon is in the early afternoon, so we will just go through the things that you can expect to see happen. If you can't make the call, then this may be helpful for you. So just to recap again, what is the new moon? So the new moon is when the moon is sitting between the Earth and the Sun. The moon and the Sun are together in the same astrological sign, but when the Sun is shining on the dark, what we see is the dark side of the moon. It's actually, we're looking at the dark side of the moon from the Earth's perspective. So what we see in the sky with the new moon is basically no moon. And then as the moon starts to wax or to grow, we start to see the little crescent come up. So with the Sun, when we look at the Sun symbolically, we see that the Sun rules things like the ego, individuality, and the masculine essence, and also the action principle of getting out there and doing things, making things happen out of who you are. So when we look at the moon, on the other hand, the moon is the feminine essence, and she governs intuition and the inner world, also the tribal mind. I've mentioned that before. Also the shadow self. So the moon tends to also govern those things that change their energy in a cyclical way, like the moon does, and that's why we follow the moon in the Wish Club, because we set our wishes back by the phase of the moon and also by the sign of the moon, and that's what we talk about in our classes, and also specifically how it relates to you and how it relates to your own cycles and your astrological chart at the time that you were born. So it will be different for everybody depending on the houses that the new moon, full moon and so on occurs for you. If you want more information, if this isn't clear to you, then you're welcome to check out the Wish Club on Facebook. I'll post that below if you're not in my membership club. Now, the new moon is when our hidden side and our intuition and also our superstitions can come out and play. It gives us a lot of power during the phase of the new moon itself. Because of everything's happening in the dark, it's a little bit of an analogy, such as when you plant a seed in the soil, and the soil doesn't see the light of day, it doesn't see the sunshine, but it needs the sun, it needs the warmth to germinate the seed and germinate the idea, germinate the intention, is how we extrapolate that out to our own experience. So it's really the time that we use to find out what we want to achieve, what our intentions are. And of course, intention is essential in the creation process. So if you don't, you can wish for everything that you like. We talk about the Wish Club, but it's also intention is very specifically needed in order to bring to light those things that we're wishing for. And because we're doing it in line with the cycles, so for example, this new moon being in Aries, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute, but when the new moon is in Aries, or in whatever sign that is, it gives it an energy. It gives the moon, as in our wishes, our innermost desires, our feminine essence. It gives that a different flavour. So, for example, if the moon was in Taurus, which it will be next month, it's a different type of thing, and it has different rulership. So what we tend to do is we're looking at bringing our dreams into the light of conscious manifestation, basically, and that's what we're doing with the Wish Club. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about is specifically this new moon cycle. We've got the new moon, which it's a very interesting configuration, because the new moon in Aries is conjunct or very close together in the sky with Venus in Aries, and Venus is actually retrograde. So you may be familiar with the concept of Mercury being retrograde and what that means. There's a lot of people tend to talk about that, especially on Facebook. If you follow any astrology or moon-based sites, or people that talk about that sort of thing. So what we're talking about with retrograde is it's an apparent retrograde motion. So the planets don't actually go backwards, but that's how we describe it in terms of symbolically. It's like sitting on a train, your train's going at a certain speed and suddenly a really fast train goes past you, and instead of feeling like you're moving forward, it feels like you're moving backward, or you're staying still. So that's basically what's happening in the sky when we observe the retrograde motion of the planets. So it's not actually the planet turning backwards, it's just our perspective and our perception of what's happening out there. And that's very symbolic of, most of the things that we experience in life as well, because, it's based on our perspective, whether it's real or whether it's actually happening that way in real time, or, from an objective point of view, is not the point, because we're actually doing a subjective thing. So it's a very subjective influence that goes on with the retrograde planets. So with Venus in retrograde, generally Venus represents our values and the things that we value in life, and it also is a very feminine sign. It rules Libra and Taurus, and it actually has a lot to do with sensuality and what we enjoy, the things that we bring into our life, our little comforts and those sorts of things, as well as love and sex and those ideas as well. So what is interesting about this particular configuration with the new moon is that Venus being retrograde in Aries, so Venus is said to be in detriment in Aries, but when it's retrograde, it's like a double cancellation, so it becomes more Venusian in the Aries way. So generally we would say that the retrograde motion of a planet turns it on its head, its operation on its head, its meaning on its head a little bit, and makes it a little bit more difficult to express its natural energies in that way. But because Venus is in detriment in Aries, it actually gives Venus a lot of power in Aries, which is it might sound counterintuitive, but trust me, it sort of works out that way. But the other interesting thing is that the ruler of Aries is Mars, and Mars is actually sitting in Taurus at the moment, and as I said before, Venus rules Taurus. Battery's going to die soon, so I better make this quick, I guess. So Venus, and so we've got this Mars being in detriment in Taurus is ruling our new moon. So we've actually got some very strong energies coming out. It may seem that the energies it's almost like it's a watered down energy of Aries, because Aries is very much the pioneer, the powerful, the warrior, the go-getter, the action taker. And because of this particular configuration, there is a lot of power out there, but it's a lot softer. So it's almost like the power of the lover rather than the power of the warrior, or it's the power of the enlightened man, or the enlightened warrior energy is coming through for this cycle. So if you want to achieve something and you need to do it in a very conscious way and need to do it in a very loving way, then this is the perfect time to set that up for yourself. So I'd like to see what you intend to wish for, so put that down below and let me know what you think that would be good for you. If you haven't had your chart done and you want to know how these cycles affect you, you need to come along to the Wish Club and sit in on our calls. So again, I'll post below information about the Wish Club if you want to check it out. So do come along to the Facebook page as well, because that's open for everybody if you want to know more about the Wish Club and what we do there. So I'm going to let that go here. If you have any comments or questions about what I've said, then certainly post it below. I'd love to hear from you. And have a great day, and I hope you have a wonderful Aries new moon. Okay, bye.